What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Phil, and welcome back to another video. So, for quite a long time, I haven't been doing like character discussions within Super Sentai. Yeah. But anyways, today I really want to talk about Gozyuger and its main character, the Red Ranger, none other than Hoeru Tono, aka Goju Wolf himself. So before I begin, there are going to be some spoilers, especially if you haven't even watched the show yet. I mean, at this point, at the time of this recording, there have been seven episodes out, so catching up is still really easy. So go ahead and catch up on the latest Gozyuger episodes. Go get started if you haven't already. Because talking about Hoeru, there are some details that, again, are spread throughout these episodes. So I really recommend watching them before you watch this video because, again, there are going to be some spoilers. So, with that said, if you have watched the latest episodes already, then good. If not, go ahead and watch them. Otherwise, enjoy this video. So let's get started. So we see Hoeru from episode 1 as, this brash individual who gets into fights quite often, and he often gets fired from his part-time jobs because of his behavior. So, where does that come from? So, it actually has to do with his backstory. And again, these are like placed in several parts in different episodes. So, starting from episode 1, so we do see a flashback of Hoeru, in which looks like another dimension, which actually kind of leads into the first theory that I would say isn't technically wrong, but we have to clarify. So, because of that flashback, many people have assumed that Hoeru is not a human from this world, but it turns out, I believe in episode 6 or somewhere along those lines. So it turns out that, well, it's not entirely false either. So I have to clarify. So Hoeru explains that when he was a child, so he, his older brother, and a group of other people were suddenly taken, or you could say abducted, and they were taken into the number one world, or the no one world, if you will. So they were taken from this world into the no one world, and apparently they got stuck there for some time. So, like I've said, Hoeru was abducted with his brother, but it seems that somewhere along the way they got separated, and so there was a lady who found Hoeru, and we don't see a lot, but she was, I guess she was the one who picked him up and, helped him kind of escape. We don't really see how that happened either, but there was, again, this flashback in episode 1 where she tells him that he should hide his emotions, and suddenly she vanishes into thin air. So we don't really know what happened yet. Okay, we don't really know the full details. Maybe, we get some more backstory to delve more into that in future episodes. But either way, what happens is eventually Hoeru was able to escape from that dimension. So I'm going to talk about episode 4 a little bit, because at the end of episode 4, so when he looks at Kinjiro and his family from a distance, like, oh, family, and then he pulls out a picture. So there's of course Hoeru, his older brother, and his parents. So again, we do see some backstory about his family as well. So when Hoeru himself tells everything in episode 6, so it turns out that when he did manage to escape from the no one world, so years have passed apparently, and when he finally found his parents, so they have two new kids. So, you know, he has two younger brothers already, but like they look so happy that they, at least to him, like again looking at them from a distance, like, oh, like they've forgotten about me, they've moved on. So I guess in that sense, well, again, Hoeru had found his parents, but seeing that they have been living a happy life without him and his brother, so he just, like leaves them alone. He never talks to them ever again. So I guess this is probably a contributing factor to Hoeru's personality, if you will. So he is again like a rebel, a lone wolf, and I guess you could say he was just trying to, survive, if you will. And there is actually a prevailing theory. So this is actually a second theory, that this one, at least at the end of episode 7, or yeah, at the end of episode 7, so the official Gozyuger account posted something on their on X, aka Twitter. So that debunks the following theory that I am going to say. So prior to episode 7, so there has been a rumor that's been going around that Fire Candle is Hoeru's older brother. This theory has been debunked. So, while again, there is, I guess, some sort of like logical explanation why people would think that way, because like the actor for Fire Candle obviously is significantly older than Hoeru's actor. So again, that kind of makes sense. And given that, you know, Hoeru and his brother were separated in the no one world, so again, Hoeru was able to escape, but his older brother was. We can imagine that he was captured and then brainwashed, and then now he's Fire Candle. Again, that made sense, but like after episode 7 and that official post from the Gozyuger social media, so this theory is completely debunked. However, Hoeru's actual brother has already been introduced, and this is Kuon. So, if you guys still remember the press conference for Gozyuger, so Kuon is this guy in a suit with a long coat, and he was introduced as the president of an AI company. So apparently, so again, according to Gojuger's official X account, so he is Hoeru's older brother, and he is going to make his appearance in episode 8. So finally, we get to meet him. Now, there's also something about Kuon that I want to talk about here. So this, I'm not sure if this is going to be a spoiler. Uh, this isn't even a theory in my opinion, but so if you guys have seen like the transformation course posted on YouTube, or if it was shared by other people on other social media platforms like Facebook, for example, so of course Goju Unicorn and Goju Eagle show us how they transform and what they can do. And then at the end of the video, there's this mysterious, sinister looking figure who goes on screen and then shows us like a weapon that similarly looks like the Tega sword, but unlike the Tega sword, which is gold, this mysterious character's version is completely white, or rather white with some red trims. But instead of a sword, it's a gun. Although there is kind of like a blade protrusion, like pointing downward. So it's revealed that this character's name is Ring Hunter Gozyuger. Okay? Now, I'm not gonna beat around the bush any longer. Gozyuger is Kuon. Kuon is Gozyuger. So we don't see the transformation yet, but it is just conveniently explained. Now, let me explain why I'm saying this. Again, this isn't really a spoiler at this point, if I'm being honest, but like the hints are there already, like just from the visual cues. So Garyudo's main costume is primarily kind of black with a very distinct red X on his chest. And then, if you look at Kuon's coat, so at least on the left side of his chest, there is also a red X. And pictures from, again, the official Gozyuger account show Kuon doing this pose. So he puts his fingers like this in a cross or in an X fashion, as opposed to Hoeru's, hand signature that basically is a ring. So that is already a big giveaway, and it's also revealed that Kuon is going to transform into Garyudo using a weapon called the Tegajun. So Ju, which means gun, so the hand is a gun, the hand is a sword, right? So as opposed to the Tega sword, we have the Tegajun that Kuon is going to use in order to transform into Garyudo. So Garyudo himself already makes his appearance at the end of episode 7. And again, we are going to see more of Garyudo, of course, moving forward. But at least from the Gozyuger's point of view, they don't know who it is yet. And in the case of Hoeru, he doesn't know that his brother is Garyudo. So what we know so far is, again, Hoeru and his brother were separated at some point while they were in the No One world. And again, apparently Kuon is also out there. However, we can already see what kind of happened. So again, the brothers got separated. Hoeru was able to escape, so eventually he was chosen by the Tegasword to become Goju Wolf. But Kuon, on the other hand, well, again, as he was separated from his brother, we can say that he was found by Bryden and maybe kind of brainwashed, and then eventually he was given the Tegajun to transform into Garyudo. So again, we don't really know what actually happened, but this is the most plausible scenario that I can imagine for Garyudo, aka Kuon's backstory. So eventually he was able to go out, or he was able to return to this world, and eventually he found like he would establish an AI company. And again, like episode 8, so it's still a few days from now as of this recording. So Kuon and Hoeru will meet each other again. But like there was no reveal, if I would say so. Like, bro, yo, we see each other again. So like there's no twist reveal. Uh like they just right off the bat say like, hey, this is Hoeru's older brother, and they see again, they recognize each other. Like there's no tension with that. However, what I do see is that while Hoeru and his brother, like they probably remain close, but their identities as Goju Wolf and Garyudo, respectively, are unbeknownst to each other. So once that is revealed, so there's going to be tension between the brothers. And considering that Garyudo is a ring hunter, and of course, well, the Gozyugers are also technically hunting for the other Sentai rings themselves. So there's gonna be this big rivalry between them. But of course, Garyudo is, well, we can't say a villain at this point. So he plans to use Sentai rings for evil, But that's too generalized. But it's also the most logical thing that I can think of. So, what's also interesting about Garyudo, as opposed to the Gozyugers, so using the other Sentai rings, the Gozyugers can transform into other Sentai heroes. Of course, we can see that the chest armor remains the same. So, there have been fans on X who posted, or at least I saw one. So, and again, like, it's actually funny because it's kind of true. So, Garyudo is the Super Sentai equivalent of Kamen Rider the End. I mean, think about it. So, the Gozyugers use the Tega Sword to transform into other Sentai heroes. So, like Kamen Rider Decade does with, his Kamen Ride cards. And both the Gozyugers and the Kamen Rider Decade have sword weapons. Okay, so the Tega Sword at least, and then Kamen Rider Decade has the Ride Booker Sword. Although it can transform into gun, of course. However, so Kamen Rider DN's DN driver, right? So it's a gun. And it has the power to summon Kamen Riders. Not transform DN into another Kamen Rider, but to summon. Of course, if you are a veteran Tokusatsu fan, this would be common sense. So like that, Garyudo uses the Tega Jun, and just like Kamen Rider Decade, or sorry, the End, by the way. So again, Garyudo uses Sentai rings to summon other Sentai Reds, and he can also do multiple summons at the same time, kind of like what the End does. So I'm not really gonna be surprised if Bandai or Toei would say like, yeah, we did use Kamen Rider the End as an inspiration for Garyudo's character. So again, it just makes sense. They're from the same company, and they can do whatever they want with references and anything like that. So yeah, I'm really interested how they are going to, flesh out the story between Hoeru and Kuon, and how the conflict between the Gozyugers and, Garyudo are gonna, pan out in the future episodes. So yeah, so stay tuned because I am going to watch future episodes as well. So what do you think? Let me know down in the comment section. And as always, please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. This has been Philip, and I'll see you next time. Bye.